This is the brief homily for the 18th of October. Please read the readings before listening to the homily. Because of an equipment failure, this is an audio recording. Cyrus answered a question. Two questions. One, was the authority of God limited to the Holy Land, or did he have authority beyond its borders? Some, like the psalmist of today's psalm, thought yes. Others did disagree. The other question, could God use a foreigner, an unbeliever, to do God's work? That was a much more minority view. But when Cyrus took over Babylon and commanded that the people of Israel were to be released from their slavery and returned to the Holy Land, and were to be allowed to practice their religion again, people saw that yes, sometimes an unbeliever is doing God's work. When Jesus saw through that trap, if he'd said yes, one set of people would have had him assassinated. If he'd said no, another set would have. But he sees through it, and he gives us that teaching. Render to Caesar the things that belong to Caesar, to God those that belong to God. Sometimes a civil authority that's made up of people who are not believers are doing God's work. When a government acts with integrity and justice, in coherence with the rule of law, then we Christians owe that government our respect and our compliance. Not, of course, if they instruct us to do something we know to be morally offensive, and not if they go beyond their proper authority and tell their citizens what religion they must believe. But within its own boundaries, within justice and morality, a government does God's work even if no one in the government believes in God. At the moment, we are thankful for that work being done to limit the harm caused by this present pandemic. The regulations may be irksome, they may be irritating, but if they are put in place for the public good by legitimate authority, then our duty is to obey them and to obey them cheerfully. In that second reading, St. Paul rejoiced that the people were expressing their faith in action, working for love and persevering in hope. A faith that doesn't change the way a person behaves, that isn't expressed in action, that's a dead faith. A person who will only work for money and will see that something ought to be done, but will only do it if someone pays them to do it, that is not someone whose love is genuine. And at times we need hope in order to persevere. God forbid that, like the people Paul had often written to throughout his letters to different communities, God forbid that we should end up in a situation where our lives are at risk if we proclaim our faith. Then we will need hope in order to persevere. Let's pray for our brothers and sisters in the world who today are in that situation.